Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at some quotes that Bruce Arians gave today to the media regarding some trade rumors surrounding Ronald Jones, and we're basically, at the end of the day, guys, going to boil it down as to why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won't trade either Ronald Jones or OJ Howard before the trade deadline on November 2nd. So if you guys are new here, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button if you do enjoy these types of videos, and leave your thoughts about Bruce Arians' comments and about whether or not you do want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to trade either Ronald Jones or OJ Howard, or you do not want them to trade Ronald Jones or OJ Howard, down in the comment section below. But how did we get here, right? How did we get to Bruce Arians' comments? Well, there have been trade rumors surrounding both OJ Howard for a while now and Ronald Jones in recent weeks, as there is a belief that the coaching staff isn't very high on either player and that they are ready to move on. In the case of OJ Howard, they did shop him at one point recently in the offseason. I believe during the NFL draft, they didn't get an offer that they liked. They decided to keep OJ Howard, and we'll talk about how that's been good for the team here in a moment. In the case of Ronald Jones, a lot of people have felt that he has been in the doghouse pretty much since the start of the season, me included. Ronald Jones, he just hasn't been able to get the job done as a receiving back, as a pass blocking back. He hasn't shown, everything that the coaching staff may have wanted to see from him as their starting running back, so they turned to Leonard Fournette, and really nobody has looked back in that scenario. That is how these trade rumors came up. Now, there have been reporters in league circles that have actually pegged Ronald Jones as a trade target for teams who need running backs, and I've even seen some people out there peg OJ Howard as a trade target for teams who need a tight end. Case in point, the New York Jets. I've already talked about that in a separate video, but the point is that there are reporters in other league circles that are saying, hey, maybe this team will trade for Ronald Jones. Maybe this team will trade for OJ Howard. Those discussions, those conversations have certainly been out there, and there was a report that a couple of teams were monitoring the Ronald Jones situation here in Tampa Bay with the Bucs. Now, that doesn't mean that they are going to automatically trade for him. That doesn't mean that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are willing to trade Ronald Jones. That just means that teams are keeping an eye on that situation. If I had to guess the teams, I'd say probably the Baltimore Ravens, maybe the San Francisco 49ers, teams that really could use a running back. Those are kind of two of the first teams that may come to mind. That is how we got to this question being asked today of Bruce Arians. This led a reporter to asking Bruce Arians if they have thought about potentially trading Ronald Jones, and Bruce Arians had this to say. We are getting this from John Ledyard of pewterreport.com, by the way. No, not at all. Arians said, laughing. He was laughing whenever he was asked this question, if the Bucs would look to unload Ronald Jones. He then went on to say, it's a long season. Just look at the scenario that happened last year. That is in regards to Ronald Jones getting hurt towards the end of the season. Leonard Fournette stepped in because of that injury, and he's been playoff Lenny. He has been the Leonard Fournette that everybody knows and loves ever since then. That is what Bruce Arians is alluding to there. And still, with the illness being out there, you can't have enough good players. So, yeah, at the end of the day here, guys, the Bucs, in my opinion, you guys can completely disagree with my opinion, and again, let me know your thoughts about that in the comments section below, but based on that quote from Bruce Arians, right, they're not even considering trading Ronald Jones. It's a long season. They just added an extra game. Injuries happen all the time to a lot of different position groups. The Buccaneers feel happy with Ronald Jones as a depth guy. He's not going anywhere. I assume a similar set of comments can be made for a guy like OJ Howard as well. He is a depth guy. He's there in the case of injuries, and if he needs to step up, the Buccaneers coaching staff trusts him to step up if they need him to. So, yeah, at the end of the day, guys, the Bucs are approaching this, in my opinion, the right way. Guys, depth is so important, and you need to have it. You need to have it for whenever injuries happen. I mean, look at the Buccaneers cornerback position right now, right? You had Carlton Davis go on the injured reserve. You had Sean Murphy-Bunting go on the injured reserve. You had Jamel Dean dealing with some injuries. Okay, that's fine. Let's bring in Richard Sherman. Let's see what he can do. And then he goes down with an injury. You know, position groups can get plagued so quickly and so easily by just a rash of injuries. It can happen at any time, and you need to be prepared. The Buccaneers, they have really had to work hard here to bring in some guys into that cornerback room, like Pierre Desir, like Rashard Robinson. D. Delaney, they had him. Ross Cockrell, they had him. But Richard Sherman was one of those guys who was brought in because of the injuries. So again, you need to have the depth. You need to be prepared. I think that it's safe to say the Buccaneers weren't as ready as they could have been at the cornerback position in terms of depth, and it left them scrambling for a little bit of time before they were able to find their footing and find some level of balance and get some guys some level of experience under their belt, and now they're throwing out, you know, their 5th, their 6th, their 7th cornerbacks due to all these injuries that have happened. Again, it can happen to any position group, guys, so you've got to have the depth there, which, you know, adds to the reasons to not trade a guy like Ronald Jones or not trade a guy like O.J. Howard, because they are valuable depth. They are under contract. You don't got to give them any more money and try and make the cap space work. They're already here. And just, again, they're under contract. They know the Buccaneers' offensive system. They don't have to bring in another tight end. They don't have to bring in another running back and try and have them scramble in a week or two and learn this offensive system before they're thrust out into a game time situation. That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be a great situation to be in. Again, look at the Buccaneers cornerback situation. It has left mixed results at times. And yeah, at the end of the day, guys, they're good quality depth pieces that are there in the case of injuries. I mean, again, look at O.J. Howard in the case of Rob Gronkowski. He's been out for a couple of weeks now. What happened? O.J. Howard came in, he stepped up when the team needed him to, and he looked like a pretty decent receiving tight end in last week's game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what you have guys here to do, right? To be those guys who can step up if there are injuries, in the case of the cornerback room, in the case of the tight end room with Rob Gronkowski. So it just doesn't make a ton of sense. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys, they're in win now mode. They're not supposed to be sellers at the trade deadline. That's not what teams who are going for another Super Bowl do. They don't sell away their players. If anything, they try and buy players at the trade deadline from teams who are not doing good and try and bolster their ranks, bolster their depth. That's what buyers do. That's what teams that are deep into the playoff hunt, into the Super Bowl hunt, that's what they do at the trade deadline. They don't give away valuable depth pieces like a Ronald Jones or like an O.J. Howard. If anything, they do the exact opposite. So I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are approaching this the right way. I agree with Bruce Arians' comments that he made in regards to Ronald Jones and why they won't be looking to trade away him. I think you could apply the same logic and reasoning to O.J. Howard as well. So what do you guys think about Bruce Arians' comments? What do you think about shutting down the idea of trading Ronald Jones or O.J. Howard before the November 2nd trade deadline with the NFL? Leave me your thoughts about all of that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.